Hello, folks. What you're about to watch is a very difficult episode. There's a lot of disturbing facts in there. It's a real life accounting of from a rape survivor, and she details her story and what happened to her. And this episode is a follow up to the episode on the Supreme Court's ruling that overturned Roe v. Wade. It's an important ruling, for everyone in the country. There's a lot of protests going on from both sides of the equation. And, some people ask me, well, how is the country going to change after this overturning of Roe v. Wade? Remember, the Supreme Court did not outlaw abortions. They just said that abortions are not a constitutional right. So states are allowed to either ban it or allow it. There's up to maybe 26 states, including big, populated states like Texas and Florida that will likely ban abortions completely or ban them after the first few weeks of pregnancy. And some states, potentially up to 10 states, will not have any sort of exceptions for rape or incest. So it is a topic worth discussing, and this episode will kind of give you some like a firsthand account of kind of what happened to this person and how she survived through it. And then I also want to provide a phone number if there's anyone out there that's kind of suffering from sexual abuse or sexual assault. You can call this National Sexual Assault Hotline. That phone number is 800-656-4673. So enjoy the episode, and please, if you have comments, concerns, questions, I always love to hear from everyone. So enjoy the episode, and hopefully I hear from you after that. How you doing today?
Great. How are you?
Good. I'm excited to have you on. So I want to introduce. This is my good friend Mimi, and we've been buds for a while, and I'm excited to have her on the show.
So good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And I am grateful that Mimi is willing to share her story. And as I told you when we were talking about this, my goal is to share your story, and it could empower other women in the world and other people, and kind of maybe some people are going through what you've gone through, and maybe they could hear your story and what happened, and it could kind of improve their lives and stuff. So
yeah, and I want to thank you for being willing to have me on, for inviting me, and for being willing to have this conversation as a man as well. I think that's a really big deal, and I think it's really important that men are having this conversation too. So I really that means a lot.
Thank you.
And it is a big topic.
Yes. And just for background, okay. So what happened was there was the Supreme Court decision, and I did a podcast on that. In that Supreme Court decision, the justices overturned 50 years of law and said that the abortion is not a constitutional right, and that states could outlaw it, and states can do basically whatever they want, right? And that is how I learned about this, right? Because then you posted your story, and it's do you want me to kind of just to give the audience a little, right?
Sure,
so
yeah.
You posted some of your story, and I read it, and I was I don't know what happened. I was shocked. I was like it really got to me, and then that's I called you, and you were grateful enough to do this. So, well, tell us, okay, what made you decide to post such a story, and then if you want to start telling the viewers what you posted that started this conversation.
Sure. Well, that whole situation with Roe versus Wade it ignited something in me that I was like, I have to. And I've shared my story I have a very dynamic story with a lot of pieces to it. And so I have shared my pieces of that story along the way over the years in many different ways. Haven't quite gone as open and deep as I did with this one. And when that happened with the Roe versus Wade stuff, I was just like, I have to. And so I just decided it just like came out of me. And I was like, this has to be told. I actually had called my daughter and had her like be on the phone with me when I pressed post because I knew it was going to be a big deal for me. But I just feel like people need to hear it. People need to know that they're not alone. Even though the topic is becoming more public, it's still a situation where people feel very alone in what happened to them, whatever the story is. So that's kind of what led me to put it out there.
Right. And then you went into detail of your childhood, right?
Yeah.
And then I remember when I was talking, so you grew up with your mom,
Correct.
right? And she was raising you single mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your dad wasn't there, your mom was there. So tell us a little bit about your mom while you were growing up and how everything kind of like unfolded sort of.
Sure. So my mom is a drug addict and alcoholic. And I was essentially mostly raised by her. I did have a stepdad for a little while, but they split up when I was very young. And after that happened, my mom went pretty deep into her addictions. And that evolved into her becoming a drug dealer. And so, we had this lifestyle where people were in and out of our house all the time. People were coming to do deals with her. We actually on our patio had one of those sensors, like when you walk into a store and it beeps. We had one of those at our front door.
Wow.
So that she could hear when people were coming.
Okay.
And so that's who the person was that ended up sexually abusing me. And he was one of her quote unquote best friends.
Oh, no.
And that is a very common piece of the story for a lot of people. It's a family member, it's a family friend, it's someone that the family trusts. And that's who this person was.
And when did he first come into your life?
I was about 10 years old.
Okay. Oh.
And he was someone that I looked up to. It was like kind of a babysitter, but kind of a uncle kind of figure. He was someone that was consistent and was around a lot, and I kind of felt safe with him, whereas most of the people around I didn't feel that with. So he really established that friendship with my mom and then established himself as someone that we could trust.
Right. And then he, so when did he start abusing that trust?
Yeah, so that was very shortly after he came into the picture. So probably about 10 years old. And he came into my room at night and would do things to me. And then by the morning he would be gone. So he would either be out sleeping on the couch or he would have left. And my mom was so busy with her, business
Right,
that she wasn't really in tune with what was going on with me. And I remember really like yearning for that connection with my mom and not having it for really ever.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then, so this happened for a long time.
Yeah.
This guy was in the picture and this happened a long time,
Mhm.
right? And then what happened when you were 14?
Yeah.
know?
So so it started as molestation, and then it turned into intercourse. And I ended up pregnant at 14, 15. And I went to my best friend at the time and told her, and it was her parents that took me to have an abortion.
And do you recall where, like did you say it was maybe a Planned Parenthood?
I think it was a Planned Parenthood. It was down south in San Diego.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when you went, so you went with your best friend's parents and they took you to the Planned Parenthood and
Yeah.
that's where you got it. Do you remember, did you feel like, did they talk to you? Like, do you remember if the doctors talked to you or did you have to like go to counseling or anything?
No.
And this would have been around the year 2000? No.
So
1990, like early 90s, let's say, right? 93,
yeah,
yeah, okay.
probably early
Early
90s.
90s, okay,
Yeah.
sorry. So early 90s, and you went to the Planned Parenthood, and you don't recall if there was counseling or doctors
I
that
don't
talked to you?
recall much about any of that. I know that we didn't tell anybody. So either they had to vouch for me or I just was able to go in and
Uh-huh.
do it.
Or maybe they vouched, like they said they're your legal guardians, for
Maybe
example.
something like it could have been something like that.
So how did you make that decision at 14?
I just I just knew that I couldn't have a baby. I just, and with this person, it was tumultuous. He was abusive, and my mom and her. So by this time, I think my stepdad was in the picture, and they were abusive with each other. So there was just all kinds of physical, mental, emotional abuse going on in the home, and I just knew I wasn't ready for something like that. And I also want people to know that we don't always get pregnant by choice, right? Like, I don't think that people should be forced to keep these pregnancies and have these babies. And not only that, but, if they do, then I would have been in a drug induced environment. Who knows what would have happened? That baby could have been taken away from me, or we could have been, there was one point when I was on the streets with this guy. So who's going to take care of all of that? Who's going to make sure that the baby's okay and I'm okay? And, where's the consideration for the whole picture? Right.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I understand. I mean, what would you like? There's some people that say, well, it's rare that this happens, or it's, there's other things you could have done, or there's adoption. There's like, how people always like, what would you say to those folks?
It's not rare. It happens a lot. And I actually follow someone on social media who was adopted. And the similar story, I think it was an unwanted pregnancy, and she talks about how that's not a solution to this. That's just a whole other set of issues,
Yeah.
So no matter how you cut it, it's not an easy decision, and there's problems and things to deal with on every side of the story,
Right. And it sounds to me like you're saying then there are, at the least the decision should be in the woman's hand, like in your hand, as opposed to no choice. Is that
Yes,
right? I mean,
yes, absolutely. Regardless of what the story is, what the situation is, I should be the one to make that final decision.
right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then, um, thankfully, like you're still here. You're doing awesome. Like it didn't get easier after that, right? Like this guy was still in the picture.
Yeah,
Like,
he was still in the picture. My mom's disease was progressing, and it got to the point, well, she ended up having 2 babies along the way as well. So I have 2 siblings who are 14, 15, 16
oh, now,
years younger than
you
me.
okay, okay, got it. Oh, so after this, like then she had another 2
Yeah.
children. Okay.
And I lost my spot.
So you were 14 and 15,
Yeah,
16.
and so she ended up being in and out of prison while this is all going on still. I'm still being abused, but there was points when he was the only place I had to go. I felt like he was the only person that, he told me he cared about me, and he told me he was doing these things because he loved me. And I'm 14. This has been going on since I was 10, and I'm 14, 15, 16. I'm brainwashed, essentially. Like, this is something that I'm stuck in. But I did start to wake up during that time and tried to get away. There was one time, which I shared in my post as well, where he held me at knife point and wouldn't let me leave. So he was on drugs too. But yeah, I felt stuck, and I felt like I couldn't tell anyone, because if I did, then my mom would be in trouble. So I was also protecting my mom.
Oh, because she'd be in trouble potentially for like like child neglect or child abuse or whatever, right? So
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why you didn't want to like call the police or call the principal or whatever.
Yeah, because I knew that she was breaking the law and she was doing plenty of things that would have gotten her in trouble. A lot of my childhood was spent making sure that my mom was okay. I really wanted to be around her. I really wanted to protect her as much as I can. And that meant staying for me.
I see. Okay. Yeah, because I'm sure a lot of people would say, well, why didn't she get out? Like you said, you're 15, 16, and all this other things are going on.
Yeah.
Then the unthinkable happened, right? Like it happened again.
It happened again. And that time I was about 16, maybe 17. And by that time I was starting to wake up to what was going on and realizing that I needed to get away. And I told my mom.
So you told your mom I'm pregnant and this jerk is.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. How did you decide to do that?
It was at a point when I knew that I needed to do something different to help me get out of it. And so I didn't know what else to do. I had to tell her because I knew that she would probably not be very happy about it, you know, if she knew what was going on. But I also didn't feel like I had a lot of other options anymore.
Okay.
And so, you know, she was outraged. And she was the one that took me the second time to get an abortion.
And do you remember that time? What it was like? Did you have to talk to the doctors, or like what? Do you remember like the process before it happened, or
no?
Right.
I know, and it's hard because a lot of stuff I know I kind of blocked out, you know.
Yes.
But I remember it just being. I remember we just kind of went, and I don't remember there being a lot of stuff to work through to get to have it done.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you made the decision, and then you went and you got it done, and then what I remember from your post, it was really tough. The what is it called? The post surgery.
Yeah. It was really traumatizing. I remember going in and I remember being put to sleep for the procedure. And then I remember waking up in a room that was kind of like like when you go into an ER room and there's a bunch of beds that are separated by curtains. That's what it was like. And there was rows of women, and so many of them were crying because they were all waking up too. And it was awful, and it made me question, looking back on it especially, like it made me question what really happened, like what was really going on in those places, because I don't know if it was legit, you know?
What do you mean legit? Like, you don't know if it was a good idea, if it was legal, or?
I don't know if they had the proper safety protocols in place. I don't know. So, so there is another side to all of it that I can see now, that it's like, well, there needs to be safety protocols, and there needs to be things in place to make sure that this is done properly in a way that's safe for the woman. And, I don't know if it's like that out there.
So do you know if the other women, do you think it was like a painful procedure, or if it wasn't done right, or they didn't give them enough like pain meds, or it was the fact that they woke up from this procedure? Like, so maybe all of the above. Like, what do you think
Maybe
was
all
going
of the
on?
above. I think what I was hearing was emotionally traumatizing to them. They knew that they had just let go of a baby, and there was one woman that was crying for her baby.
Oh.
So, yeah.
And she was saying, what was she
my
saying?
baby, like you took my baby. So I don't know, obviously don't know what her story was, but yeah.
Wow. And then things got better after that for you, right? This is like memes is on track, right? Like you got yourself out, and you took your two siblings with you, right?
So obviously some time passed,
right?
But I got out of that situation and that relationship. I think I mentioned to you that we tried to go to law enforcement at one point.
Right. I was going to ask. You went to the police
Mm-hmm.
and told them about what this guy has been doing for years.
Yeah.
And this is the police department, right?
Yeah.
Escondido Police Department?
Mm-hmm.
And what did they do when you told them all
They
this?
said that we didn't have enough evidence to prove that anything had happened. Yeah.
And they wouldn't even question this guy or anything?
Nothing happened after that.
All right, so
Well, and
okay.
interestingly, that guy is still in Escondido.
I know. This,
So-
I know that this guy that did all this to you, so the police didn't do anything. They didn't even call the guy because they could have called them. They could have, police have this trick of like, they talk to someone and people just start talking. Like he could have admitted it.
Right.
Right. And anyway, so they didn't do any of that. Wow. Okay. And then you're saying, so this is like now 20 years later, real quick, or 20 years later, we're going to flash.
More than that.
20,
but-
25 years later, right?
Yeah.
We'll flash back. And you still see this guy in
Yeah.
the community here in Escondido?
Yeah.
Like where? How?
Yeah. I've seen him once at the grocery store. The first time I saw him was at my gym, and he started walking up to me and acting like we were old friends. Like, Mimi, is that you? And I was like, obviously I was really triggered, and I just told him, don't ever talk to me again or I will do something about it. And I ended up leaving the gym at that time and not going back. But after some years passed, I've done a lot of therapy. I've done a lot of work around all of this. I decided to go back to the gym. And at the time I wasn't even really thinking like, oh, is he going to be there? But I ended up seeing him again, and he never approached me or anything. And at one point he canceled his membership very recently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So I've seen his truck parked by the lake at my house, near my house. So yeah, he's around.
Well, I got some buddies here and they're helping me produce it. What do you think? Oh, we'll turn off the camera and you can tell me who this guy is, and we could just go beat the living crap out of him.
I would never want anyone that I love or care about to be in that situation.
It's
but
okay. I could. You know what? I could use some jail time. It make me tougher. I could talk about it on the podcast. So
right. Yeah.
I'm happy to do it.
That's a whole other story.
Well, he canceled the gym membership because a friend of yours told, right?
Yes, I forgot that part of the story. So I had been going to the gym with my daughter, and I, had to tell her who he was, like, watch out for this guy, stay away from him. And then she ended up getting a job at the gym. And so she ended up kind of befriending a lot of people that go to the gym there. And, we talk to people when we're there.
Yeah,
and
it's a gym. People are friendly. Yeah.
Yeah. And she told her manager about him. But so I guess she had told one of the guys that we work out with and talk to on a regular basis. And this guy told us that he came across him in the parking lot and said, I know who you are. And, I don't know exactly what he said, but after that he left. He canceled his membership.
God bless him. He's a good friend. I like him. So you're 17, 18, 19, 20. You end up leaving this where all this happened.
Yeah.
And you took your two siblings. Like, tell us how you did. This is awesome. This is like
yeah,
like,
this is
the
cool part of my story, right?
The good part of the movie. Yeah.
Yeah. So I moved out when I was 18, and my mom again was still in and out of prison, and he's my now ex-husband, but he was my boyfriend at the time, and we ended up taking care of my brother and sister at one point when my mom went to prison for a year. And, we thought that was going to be it. She'll do a year, she'll get out, she'll get her life together, she'll get the kids back, and everything will be fine. Well, she did a year, she got out, got the kids back, did what the courts needed her to do, and then went back to drinking and doing drugs.
Gotcha.
And so that's when we said, okay, well, we're going to take the kids. And I told my mom when she got out the first time, if you go back, those kids are mine.
Okay.
And she said, okay. And so she went back the second time, and
She went back to prison?
To prison.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we ended up just moving into the place that she was living at the time, to take care of the kids. And we ended up raising them all this. So at the time we were 18 and
They're
they were 1 and 3.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
then you end up raising them.
Hmm.
And because you were fearful that they would like suffer, the same kind of.
I already knew where they were going. And it probably would have been a different story, but they had already been in and out of the foster care system. And so I knew where their life was going. And I wanted to protect them from that.
So how, okay, 18, 19, 20, how are you raising the like kids that are just, I mean, they're your siblings.
Hmm.
So you're raising them. That's amazing. How did you do that?
I mean, I don't know. We didn't know what we were doing. We were just doing the best that we could. And I knew that I wanted to have a family someday. I ended up marrying that boyfriend.
Okay.
And, we just did the best that we could. And we ended up having 3 kids of our own.
So in addition, okay, so your two siblings, your brother and sister,
Mhm.
then you had 3 kids.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And we raised them. So we raised my brother and sister till they grew up and moved out. And
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then you had the 3 kids.
Hmm.
And then you, okay. So did you talk to your mom during this time? Like, how was that relationship?
It was very up and down, and she would try to be in the picture, but she would show up drunk, and she would try to come get the kids for a little while, but then she'd be strung out, and it got to the point where I had to say, like, this, you can't do this. Like, I had to protect the kids. And so when we started having our own kids, and my mom started kind of threatening, like, I'm going to come take my kids, that's when we decided to go to court.
Oh, you had to go to court?
Yeah, we decided to go get legal guardianship.
Oh, okay. And you got it?
And we got it.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
good. And then, okay. So the legal guardianship, was that, that's a tough process, right? The legal process, right?
I did it all myself.
You did it yourself?
Yeah.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you went to the court and you applied, and then you had to serve her, and then you had to prove to the judge that the best for your brother and sister was for you to be their guardian, not their own mom.
Correct.
And you did that. You went in front of the judge and you told the judge, and right? Wow,
Yeah.
Look at you.
Yeah, of course, with the support. I mean, my ex-husband at the time, we did it together.
Okay.
But yeah, we did the whole thing.
So then you must have went to the probate court in Vista. Is that where it was? Yeah. So you told the judge there in Vista, the story, and then so they had the judge was okay. I got you.
We had to serve both parents.
Yeah.
And my mom had said, "Oh, I'm going to show up and fight you the whole way," but she never did.
Okay.
And then their dad, so they have a different dad than I do.
Okay.
We hadn't heard from him in many years, but we still had to serve him because he was their biological parent.
Because he has the opportunity to object or
right,
to your
or to
legal
show up
guardianship
and
request.
say, "No, those are my kids. I'm going to take them." But he ended up. We got a call from him out of the blue one day after we served him, and he kind of got the story. He didn't really know what was going on, and he said, "Well, yeah, you can have those kids. You're obviously the one that's more fitted to."
Oh, so he signed
them.
off.
So he signed
I
off.
agree. I consent to legal guardianship for Mimi. Mimi to have the kids. Okay, I got you. So then you did that, and then you got a judgment from the Vista courthouse. And
Yep, and we had to gather letters from other witnesses and things like that.
It's a process to become a legal guardian.
Yeah.
It's a tough legal process, and it's a tough legal process even when nobody denies it or nobody contests it. So your mom didn't end up going to the judge, and okay, see, and it was still a tough process, right?
Yep.
That's our as a lawyer, I know, because when people ask me, it's also a tough process, by the way, if it's an adult that needs like a special needs adult, and there needs to be like a conservatorship. That's also, even when nobody's objecting, it's a tough process.
I
It's
can't
crazy.
even imagine. I would never want to be in law.
It is. Yeah. Neither would I.
Right.
All right. So look, okay, because this came about that Supreme Court case. So are you, you're saying then every woman should have this choice,
Correct.
right? What would you say to the people that say, well, what if a lot of people would say, look, someone in Mimi's position, like, God bless her, she should have that choice. But somebody that's like, whatever, 26, and it was like consensual sex and everything's cool. You know what I'm saying? she shouldn't have that choice. Like there's no reason for her to, what do they say? Use abortion as birth control.
I don't think that abortion should be used as birth control. I don't think that at all. But I also know that I'm not the one to make that decision for somebody. So who's there to take care of the fallout of people just having kids all the time?
Right. So you're saying it shouldn't, you're saying you wouldn't do that, or you don't think it's a good idea, but you're saying it should still be their choice.
Yeah.
Right. And it's important enough where it should be, it's like you're saying, it's a fundamental right, they call it. See, the Supreme Court said that this is not a fundamental right, and that's why they said people don't have the constitutional right to get an abortion. Like, so the state could outlaw it. A state could say for even rape, this, that, like still they cannot have an abortion. So you're saying it should still be their choice.
Yeah. Which, and on the same page, we should be making sure that women are educated and women have the resources that they need, the birth control, all the things that they need to take care of making sure that doesn't happen, or the emotional support when they do get raped, or,
Right.
So that's the other piece, is the resources need to be there no matter what.
Right. I got you. Okay, so hey, let's talk about some fun stuff.
Okay.
So if somebody wants to connect with you, you are on Instagram, right?
I am.
And you share like kind of like what you're doing, like pictures of the kids and all this like fun stuff. And your Instagram at iam.mimimarie.
Correct.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yes.
So iam.mimmarie.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's correct.
Oh, you know what? We could punch it right here too.
Yeah.
So people can connect with Mimi, and she's as you can, I don't have to say it, right? She's so wonderful, and
thank you.
One of the reasons is God forbid this has happened to someone else, and I'm sure unfortunately these things happen. Like they could reach out, like to me, and we could help them find resources, even if it's in a different state, a different country, like whatever. I'm here to help people.
Yeah, and so, I will add to that. I'm, as I shared with you, I'm kind of in transition, figuring out what I want my next phase to be in my career and things like that. But I am in the world of empowering women and health and wellness and nutrition and recovery. I'm in recovery myself. So that's the kind of stuff that I really want to support women with. There
we go, my friends. You have a support system here in Mimi, and that is amazing. So again, at I am dot Mimi Marie at the Instagram. And Instagram's great because then they could even like message you and stuff and connect with you. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
And what's it called? Oh, I got a gift for you. Hey,
oh,
my favorite candy. C's
Candy. My gosh.
And I'm not sponsored by C's Candy. This is just me saying this is my favorite candy.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. I love chocolate.
Oh, me too. I love chocolate too. So thank you so much, Mimi.
Thank you.
I'm hoping we, keep, the conversation with people going and stuff. And I don't know how to explain how grateful I am that you're here. And I'm hoping this touches people and like gets people to think about these things. And
thank you so much. Again, I just appreciate it so much. You putting the word out and sharing my story, but also just supporting women with this very complicated issue. So thank you.
And I learned a lot. Thank you. Whoa,
thank you.